There, working on it.
It says it's on. Is it
Are we on?
Okay.
We're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Can I?
There you are.
There I am. Here we go. True or false? We've heard this a couple times tonight already, this exact phrase. And that is the general feedback I usually get. That's the general vibe. And it's proof that we have this innate desire to have faith in humanity. That's a good thing. But I only gave you two options. What if instead we put it on a scale? So on this end we have true. I gotta have my people. I'm lost without my tribe. And on the other end of the scale, false. I know there's people like this. I am the master of my fate. I don't need nobody. Where do you put yourself on that scale? How do you feel about the village? How do you act about the village? Full disclosure, I don't trust the village. Never have. When I was born, my parents did not send out cute little baby announcements to all the friends and family. I didn't get that when I was born. This was my baby announcement. Jumbo marquee. Congratulations, Danny and Jolyn White, who have a new baby girl, Heather Jo, who arrived yesterday. Any guesses where this is at? Anybody using context clues? Oh, I think it, close. I don't think I got it.
No, it's in Baltimore.
Texas Stadium, which actually no longer exists. That's why, that makes me feel old. Texas Stadium, 65,000 seats, and they were all full that day. It was also very, very heavily televised because this was the first regular season game in 1978 after the Dallas Cowboys had just won the Super Bowl the year before. And my dad, Danny White, was on the team. He had 13 seasons with the Dallas Cowboys. So this was my baby announcement. And so you could see from the day I was born, I don't say this to brag, but from the day I was born, my village was robust, not to be trusted. A lot of people trying to get close to me, for some for good reasons and some for not good reasons. So from a very, very young age, I learned to put up walls. Nice, strong walls, protective walls. And it was there that I learned that it's not about quantity. Connecting with people. You know, like Julie talks about connection. It's not about quantity like the world would have us believe. It is about quality. And if you are trying to grow your business, if you're trying to reach a goal or overcome an obstacle, 3 people, that's all you need. We need coaches, we need teammates, and we need fans. Okay, look, I had all brothers, and it was a sports-heavy environment, so that's my metaphor. You can have your own synonyms, but coaches, teammates, and fans, that's all we need. Now, it's worth mentioning one other role. That's your critics. It's completely up to you whether or not you put them on your team and allow them into your walls. So I got really good at scrutinizing people and who were the best coaches, teammates, and fans to put in my business and in my life to influence me. And I want you to think about yours. What is important to you in a coach, teammate, or fan? Because that's what matters. But since I've spent so many years building my own definition, we're going to go through them. Because this is your team. While I don't trust my village, I have come to rely on that team. So coaches, what makes a good coach? Well, they share your enthusiasm. They've been where you've been. They prepare you for what's coming. They remind you of your training, and they are not afraid to watch you squirm. They're okay with you getting roughed up a little bit when it's what you need. Anybody have a coach like that and when they were kids, Little League or something? Those are good coaches. They reward progress over perfection, effort over achievement. They will motivate, they will instruct, but they know when to stop. I'm going to say this again, considering the occupation that we represent in this room. Good coaches know when to shut up. In fact, the best coaches are the best listeners. Learn when to zip it, when to listen, and watch your influence and your impact increase. Coaches also have your back, even when it doesn't feel like they do. Match their patience because they see the long game. And last, the best coaches will damage your pride. And that's the point. You can have the best mentor in the world. That's only half the equation. We got to be coachable. Two things we need to be coachable. We need to be humble. Okay, if you discount something a coach tells you because they hurt your feelings, you're the one missing out. We have to be humble and we have to be willing in order to be coached. Teammates. Teammates are actually my favorite of the three to talk about because they potentially have the greatest impact. They're in the trenches with you. That proximity gives them incredible perspective. So we get the best guidance from a coach and the best perspective from a teammate. It's also my favorite to talk about too because they're often, we think that our besties, our buddies are the best teammates. Teammates are actually so hard to identify. Often our besties aren't the best teammates. It's not so much about the person as it is about the alignment. Who in here has an accountability partner in NSA? That's alignment. It's not about the person, it's about the alignment. Now, teammates, they are not about themselves. They are constructive, not destructive. They will challenge you. What matters to them is what you need, not what you want. That's valuable. Like a coach, they're okay when you get a little bit of damage. They're okay. When it's what you need, they're okay toughening you up. Now, this is where it's only half the equation. You can have the best teammate in the world, but you have to be two things. You have to be vulnerable and you have to be trusting of them. Now, don't need to be vulnerable with everybody. You've got to find a teammate that checks all the boxes. Once you find a teammate that checks all the boxes, that's the right teammate for you, you have to allow them to see you completely. When you can reach that level of vulnerability and then trust that they see you better than you see yourself, nothing can stop you. You'll recognize the teammate by their focus. It is never on themselves. Now, last is fans. Fact, not opinion, grandparents make the best fans. Am I wrong? Because they know your worth. It is not based on titles. It's not based on achievement. It's based on truth. That's why they'll bet on you again and again and again, no matter the circumstances. This is a word and a phrase, unconditional love, that I think we use too often, too commonly. It's rare. It is not their hype that binds us to them. It's their lack of conditions. Fans accept you. Now, teammates see you. Fans accept you. Note the difference. Because sometimes actually fans don't see you completely. And there's some value in that too. They're sharp with your wins and hazy with your losses. That's okay. There's times for that. And when you do win, they knew all along that you would. They had no doubt. They're not surprised. Now, these three people, these three roles and relationships, they don't matter at all unless you have a certain sure foundation to build that team on. That foundation is your identity. And we've heard some really stellar advice on that tonight already. That purpose that drives you, that has to be sure before you can build a team around it. Now, we're members of a speakers association. That means at some point someone handed you a mic, literally or figuratively, and you felt the power that wields. Maybe you felt an obligation. Maybe you even had a specific message. But in that moment, You decided you wanted to be a difference maker. That power, that obligation, that message, that purpose, that's part of your core identity that you have to build your team around. My husband and I found a couple puppies several years ago, abandoned in the desert. We were just driving, we were on a long road trip, kids in the back of the car, and we actually just saw one at first. It was off the side of the road, and it was just mangy, and it was alive, but just did not look very happy. It was very, very young, maybe just a few weeks old. Its eyes were open. But we pulled over, we got out of the car, and rather than imagining what circumstances led it to be in this position, I just went into full hero mode. I'm gonna rescue this thing and feel so good about myself. So I go up to this little puppy, and it's got this fawn-colored coat, and it's all dirty, and it has this smoky black muzzle, just so cute. And I go up to it, and the closer I got, the further it got away. It was not interested in being rescued. So I thought, okay, clearly it's been traumatized. I need to give an offering. I need some bait or something. I even went back to the car, and I got a Slim Jim out of the car, not the kind that you carjack with, but like the jerky stick, you know? Because what creature lost in the desert is going to resist a Slim Jim? So I get the Slim Jim, and I even wave it in front of this little puppy. Didn't even sniff the air. Like something was clearly wrong with this poor thing. And I was starting to get really frustrated, and that's when we noticed the other puppy, too. And they were clearly from the same litter. They were the same size, same coloring, same nasty attitude. At first, we saw this, when we saw the second one, we thought, oh, good, we can have better luck with this one, and it can convince the other one, they can team up. Nope. They teamed up all right, but they scurried under this prickly bush and actually backed in, so the closest thing to us were their snarling teeth. They did not want to be rescued. What am I going to do? I have 4 kids in the back of my car, fresh out of tranq darts. Just kidding, I don't carry those. Some days I wish I did. But I had to leave. We had to leave. We left. I felt bad about that. I did. For a while. Until many miles down the road, too many, the light bulb came on. And I turned to Kelly and was like, oh my gosh, those weren't puppies. He turned back to me as we realized together, those were coyotes. And they knew that all along. That sudden understanding of identity made all the difference. All the difference. They knew exactly who they were, as young as they were. They weren't lost in the desert. We weren't sad. We weren't disappointed. We were relieved. And so were they. They knew that they weren't abandoned in the desert. They owned the desert. No strange lady with a Slim Jim was going to convince them otherwise. We have to be so sure of why we're here, what that core identity is, what that purpose is, that no stranger can convince us otherwise. Be so sure of that no friend or acquaintance can convince you otherwise. And then be so sure of that team that you build that you're never lost. My dad taught us this poem when we were kids, and I just want to tell you the middle of it, just the good part. And you may have heard it. It's a story of a young boy's race. The whistles blew and off they went, young hearts and hopes afire. To win and be the hero there was each young boy's desire. And one boy in particular, whose dad was in the crowd, was running in the lead and thought, my dad's going to be so proud. But as they speeded down the field across a shallow dip, the little boy who thought he'd win lost his step and slipped. Trying hard to catch himself, his hands flew out in brace, but amid the laughter of the crowd, he fell flat on his face. So down he fell, and with him hope. He couldn't win, not now. Embarrassed, sad, he just wished to disappear somehow. But as he fell, his dad stood up, showed his anxious face that to the boy so clearly said, get up, win the race. He quickly rose, no damage done, behind a bit, that's all. Ran with all his might and mind to make up for that fall. So anxious to restore himself, to catch up, to win, his mind went faster than his legs. Yeah, he slipped and fell again. He wished then he'd quit before with only one disgrace. I'm hopeless as a runner now. I should not try to race. But in that laughing crowd he searched and found his father's face, that steady gaze that said again, get up and win the race. So up he jumped to run again, 10 yards behind the last. If I'm going to gain those yards, I got to move real fast. Exerting everything he had. He regained 8, then 10, then trying so hard to catch that lead, he slipped and fell again. Defeat. He lay there silently, a tear dropped from his eye. There's no sense in running anymore. 3 strikes, I'm out. Why try? I have lost, so what's the use, he thought. I'll live with my disgrace. But then he thought about his dad, who soon he'd have to face. Get up. An echo sounded low. Get up and take your place. You weren't meant for failure here. Get up and win that race. With borrowed will, get up. It said, you haven't lost at all, for winning is no more than this, to rise each time you fall. So up he rose to run once more, but with a new commit. He resolved that win or lose, he was not going to quit. 3 times he'd fallen stumbling. 3 times he rose again. And now he gave it all he had and ran as though to win. I'm going to stop right there. He did not win the race. And afterwards, he said to his dad, I didn't do so well. His dad said, oh, to me, you won. You rose each time you fell. Now that story is designed, it's written so that we can identify with this fallen youngster. It's a beautiful message of resilience and perseverance. And we can identify, right, as speakers. Anybody fallen 3 times? It's a great message. But if our core identity is to be a difference maker, then let's look at this story from the perspective of the real difference maker, the dad. In your career, in your life, you've had 3 people show up. Again and again, in different circumstances, different people come and go, good and bad. But you've had people show up for you all along. My question to you today is, how are you showing up on other people's teams? Now, coach, teammate, those are privileged roles. You have to be invited. But a really great way to get an invitation is to start out a fan. There's no prerequisites there. Cheer somebody on. And I don't want to hear that you don't have anything to offer. Whether you're a veteran, we got some veterans, or a rookie, you have something to offer this organization. Find your foundation, build your team, and then perpetuate that cycle. Because, my friends, it does not take a village. It just takes a team. Thank you.
Our friend with the Slim Jims.